Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Mind Bakery, episode number 4. Sumit, it's your turn today. What do you have in mind?
Hello Mohit, how are you doing?
All good, all good.
Good.
Let's bake some minds.
Yeah, sure. So this week I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about a topic which I've been thinking on and off for a very long time now.
Okay.
Probably, possibly for over a decade, maybe.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
So, but this idea, I mean, I don't know even if I can call it an idea, but this thought has been coming to my mind on and off on various occasions. Every now and then, when I see a new kind of a technology or something. So, whenever there is a new technology or a new discussion, I inevitably end up thinking about this thought only. So, let
Okay.
me tell you what that is. So
Okay.
perhaps the best known technology of the last 30 years or 25 years, the most dominant technology impacting a wide area of scope has been the internet. Okay, I
Yes.
mean
Okay.
it has been really impactful. Everything revolves around it nowadays. So the idea of the internet is actually quite interesting personally to me because I come from a physics background. So the emergence of internet was actually started for one such
Okay.
purpose at the CERN laboratory in Europe. They basically decided to work with huge set of data, and moving large set of data is always a problem. So they came up with an idea where they would interconnect machines and do data transfer as and when required. This
Got it.
was this was specifically built for that kind of an application because that machine that they were building, by the way, that machine is a particle accelerator. They
Okay.
routinely collide particles at nearly the speed of light. And I may be off here, but if I remember correctly, the amount of data that they generated, several thousand terabytes, I don't know, per minute or per hour or some such
Okay.
ridiculous number. I mean, huge kind of data. So this technology was developed for this kind of a scale where there is so much data and you have to transfer
Okay.
it around because once you have the data and output of an experiment, now you want to analyze it. So you have several people, several teams, and data sharing and all that is, they started with this whole idea of data sharing basically.
Got it. Got it.
So that was an interesting application which took off. People realized that this should not be contained just to a physics experiment, and it might have a wider applicability. And that's what actually happened.
Okay.
And now we are here, and everything is on the internet. Okay. So this idea is
Okay.
powerful, very powerful, and
Mm-hmm.
today it is so powerful that it can sometimes be perceived as a threat. What do I mean by a threat?
Okay.
For example, these days you hear stories every now and then around the world that words like internet censorship, okay, or internet inaccessibility. There are areas where internet is non-existent, not because of any political reasons or technological reasons, just because they're hard to reach places, or the
Okay.
infrastructure
Okay.
there is not yet there. So things like that. So but internet censorship is becoming a big problem. Content censorship is becoming a big
Okay.
problem. We no longer talk about internet as a machine mechanism. We talk about services running on top of internet. Okay, so someday you
Okay.
hear about an account on Twitter being blocked or a Facebook account being hacked or blocked or things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that this technology is too important, too big, and too good, to be controlled
Okay.
in a manner where it can deprive certain people of its virtues. So what I have been
Okay.
thinking on and off for a very long time is the following: that okay, so today I depend on my internet connection provided by a service provider. Okay, so there is a service provider, which brings the connection to your home, and that's how things start rolling.
Got it.
But that's the, according to me, that's the only failure point in the whole mechanism, is that if the ISP, the internet service provider, is strong armed by a government or an entity into, into processing it in a way that blocks certain things and allows certain things, or keep an eye on you, being a vigilante of sorts, that kind of things are, are not nice, to put it mildly. Okay, I mean,
got it.
Sometimes they're unnecessary.
Makes sense.
Sometimes they're unnecessary. Sometimes they're just, I would say, not really nice,
Okay.
for lack of a better word. So what I was thinking is that we know how the technology works. Probably, we can think of an idea where a community, community of 20 people, 100 people, or some such small group of people, somehow they can put in their own infrastructure, where it will be a mini internet kind of a thing.
Okay.
And if they choose to tap in the real internet, the standard internet, they can maybe plug into the system via a node or a couple of nodes, as and when required, or as and when necessary. So, but the idea is to develop a mini internet kind of a system within a society or within a small community, offering you all the same features as the standard internet. You could do hosting, you could do browsing, you could run services, you could have your own YouTube, you could have your own Twitter, things like that. Something like a mini federated system, where I have an opportunity to tap into the main system as and when required. Or in some cases, you may not even require that. Okay.
Got it.
So this is what I've been thinking. So I don't know whether it's an idea or a thought or what, but that's what, comes into my mind every now and then. What do you think about it?
Okay. So a couple of questions. One, within this small community, if they have their own social network, if they have their own YouTube, do you think it'll really be that useful than a global social network and a global YouTube?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you compare the usefulness of a private network compared to a global network where you have all these big things like YouTube and Twitter, certainly not as useful, because, I mean, why do I watch YouTube? Because to have access to the content that is not available in my locality or in my society or in my or in and around myself. That's the whole point. I watch YouTube. Otherwise, I mean, I'll go to local theaters or local libraries, things like that. But the problem is, I mean, with all the niceties of a global internet, I'm always facing the dilemma that, someday one particular government or one particular institution or some such entity will come around and, dictate terms like, okay, so from tomorrow, you cannot watch any content provided by some country XYZ.
YouTube.com. Okay.
No, not just youtube.com. I mean, they say that, okay, youtube.com is available to you, but hypothetically speaking, say, you don't like the politics of a particular country. And
it's like the Chinese firewall. So outside,
yes,
so
exactly,
just like
like
this
a
Chinese
firewall.
firewall. Okay.
Like a firewall. I mean, Chinese firewall could be a very extreme case, but even a mild inconvenience is like not being able to visit particular channels or particular demographical content or things like that. That could be an inconvenience, which I always think, okay, you can call me a skeptic or a paranoid, but I always think, something on those lines is bound to happen, is going to happen. We have seen that in the past. We see them every day. What's happening with the media outlets, newspapers being censored. These days, OTT content is being censored, things like that. So censorship is real. I mean, nobody can deny that. It's quite real. Now, it depends how much are you willing to compromise on that facilities, that, okay, fine, I'm okay with the censored content, I'm okay with my local content, things like that. So that's the thought that drives me, that, okay, it is useful, but I would still want to have a better sense of freedom here.
Absolutely. I totally get it, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around I'm trying to choose between these two things where there's a lot of value available, but some of that value is censored out, and there's
Right.
almost very minuscule value available, but all of this is free. What is still
Right.
more valuable to me? Uh,
Okay.
uh, so I think it might be a really great idea if there was probably one extremely useful use case for private internet. Say within a community, within a small society, there could be just messaging, and this messaging now does not depend on now WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, nothing.
Right.
It's just a local messaging because and people talk about local issues, local things within this community, and
Right.
that could be a good use case. I'll
Right.
not find this use case anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, probably you can search for people who are not even your friends. You can just
Right.
broadcast to everybody who is within this network, and this could be anonymous bulletin board sort of thing that stays forever. I mean, I'm sure because there's no censorship, so there might be some sort of bad uses also if things are anonymous, and then but I think it might be interesting use case, but I'm just trying to see there has to be some value which is so unique that you cannot find it over here, and it becomes even better without the censorship. That is my first thought. Do you have any points? Because I have one more thought then.
Absolutely right. What you're saying. So, so you're talking about a great value already
Hmm.
existing out there, and I'm
Hmm.
just trying to diminish its scale by being tied to a private network. So, I mean,
Hmm.
fine. Things like there are local there are things happening around you locally
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
are not broadcasted on the YouTube. I mean,
Hmm.
see the power of. I'm always saying YouTube. I mean, what I mean is the standard internet. Okay, platforms like
Got it.
YouTube, things like that. So, I mean, the vast scale of the internet is also impacting the fact that these small local events, are forever hidden. It's so big.
Hmm.
I don't know how easy it is for me to find out something that happened last night in my locality the next day on the internet. I don't think it's
Hmm.
very easy to find it out. It probably may not even be there. But suppose if I
Hmm.
am a part of that small social network, not just a social network, a small internet, private internet,
Hmm.
maybe there are a couple of guys who may post or talk about that event that happened last night. Now that's the power of a private internet, because that's a private thing, and it's a it's hard to find it online, the
Hmm.
standard way we do things. So big things like politics, sports, or news events that have global reach, yes, of course, undeniably, the best place to find for it is on the big internet.
Hmm.
But I just imagine there could be things where news has not reached the main
Hmm.
internet, and it's more likely to be found in the inner circles. That's what I feel.
Got it.
So it could be a small application, may not be as exciting or as powerful or as motivating, but I would say there is a kind of information out there which you would
Hmm.
want to have, and it may be hard to find or may be absent on the standard internet.
Got it. Very interesting point. I mean, yes, but I mean, I totally see some value in having a small private internet, um, but the dynamics of this small internet will be very similar to dynamics of the big internet. So, for example, even if there's some content circulating in this, 90% of people would just be consumers of this content, and 10% people would be producers of the content. So these 10% people could be somebody who have any sort of incentive. So these could be local newspapers, these could be um, um, uh, local politicians who would use this kind of network to broadcast things to their people, and probably could be a good way to stay in touch with local community. I mean, I totally get it. Now my second point is there another way to solve the censorship issue? Because now you have to get actually everybody on this small internet, and this network is like not trivial to build. So what if there's another solution that I could think of? It's called VPN. I mean, using a VPN, you can bypass all the censorship of your country. or your locality. And it's just, think of its VPN like a small private internet run by a private company which taps into this big internet. Doesn't
Yeah.
that solve the
So
problem?
yes. So before I talk about what you're saying, I have two thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One, you said that it may not be trivial to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So technology, technically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
as far as technology is concerned, very high level thought. I mean, uh, today we have very cheap, easily accessible, small power devices which can handle
Mm-hmm.
such things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know things like Raspberry Pi.
Mm-hmm.
Raspberry Pi, I'm just calling out a name because that's the most popular device of its category. There are cheaper, better things available in the market. But what I'm saying is, cheap hardware is abundantly available. You can
Mm-hmm.
install one such device in your home in less than $100, $100.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so imagine like-minded people in your community who align with you on this, and they decide to invest $100 each, $100 each on one such device. Wi-Fi routers easily available. You see, I mean, the CPU
Mm-hmm.
gear and networking gear are easily available. So
Okay.
as far as the barrier to entry, I
Mm-hmm.
believe is quite manageable these days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you talk about the software on top. I mean, I'm talking about standard software, standard web services. Okay,
Yep.
so there
Yep.
is nothing to reinvent there. Maybe perhaps the scalability aspect could come in, but as far as the
Mm-hmm.
technology stack is concerned, we're right there. I mean, it's not at all a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay. Second
So
thing you're
technology
talking,
is one, yeah. So technology is easy. How do you make
right?
somebody agree to install it? That is the difficult part.
So I don't have to make anyone agree to install it. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
find like-minded people. So I'll go to groups, meetings, and talk about my things. This is what I feel. I mean, there are social media outlets. There are always people talking on Twitter. When there's, imagine there's a censorship going on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So suppose government or some organization is forcing a particular region to shut its internet down. You
Mm-hmm.
can always find close to 100,000 supporters, or some such number of supporters on a Twitter hashtagging things around. I'll talk to
But
them. I'll reach
but
them
these are
out.
distributed sparsely throughout the world. I mean, you have to find these 100,000 people in your locality to get something useful going on.
Right, right. So just thinking, I'm not saying it will work, I'm just thinking, maybe I'll send out a newsletter saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do? I'll send out a newsletter saying that people of living in a particular area facing
Mm-hmm.
this problem,
Mm-hmm.
should sign it up. Just a standard newsletter thing, which I'll try to
Okay.
communicate to people who might be interested in what I'm saying. Okay, just a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
can try to bring in people who think
Okay.
like me, and then I would not have to do any convincing at all. It's just a exercise in finding like-minded people.
Got it.
I'm not saying it could be an easy exercise, but I don't think it's terribly hard as well.
I think it's terribly hard. I mean, like-minded
Okay.
people, they have to be skeptic enough, and yeah, so they have to be skeptical enough and then optimistic enough to do something like that. And I think
Okay.
these people are there. Definitely, these people are there in millions throughout the world. But I think these people are sparsely distributed throughout the world. If I have to, again, this is something I'm just hypothesizing. If I had to find like-minded people within my like 1 kilometer radius or 2 kilometer radius, I don't think it would be easy for me to find these people. What do you think? Like in your locality, how many people do you think you can find who are skeptic enough, optimistic enough, and would do something like this?
Well, I would not.
Because this mini internet has to be useful in this small community, and if there's just 20 people, doesn't really matter. I mean, nobody would be producing any sort of content unless there are at least 10,000 people in 2 kilometer radius, 5 kilometer radius. There would not be enough content going around to have any sort of engagement or value. What do you think?
I mean, you may be possibly right about it. I mean, I cannot easily find people who would be willing to do this. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I would still like to believe that the natural tendency of people is to be controlled less and less. Okay, once people start
Yes.
thinking, once people start thinking, yesterday I was using the services like in a particular way, today I cannot. Okay, then there is a thought coming into their mind,
Mm-hmm.
what if things were different? Just a thought, a small
Mm-hmm.
innocent thought can come into your
Mm-hmm.
mind one day, thinking, I would want to use a certain thing in a certain way. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
where I can find these people, or even if I can find these people, but there could be,
Mm-hmm.
these kind of people sitting around in my locality with, and they may be just
Mm-hmm.
waiting for somebody to come up. Again, it's a big hypothesis.
Yes.
Quite, I'm not even, I might not even make any sense at the moment, but things like this
Mm-hmm.
can have a natural tendency to come out. I mean it's a worthwhile
Absolutely
thing to wait
possible.
for.
I
Yeah.
mean, oh, absolutely possible. I think so. Again, a random wild idea. So, for example, let's just say instead of messaging, social news, local news, what if this killer application of this small internet is local dating? And then
Yeah.
if somebody has to find a date, they just have to install this $100 thing on their rooftop, and dating is a way to get their foot in. And once they are there, they can see, hey, there's messaging as well. You can have some local utilities, maybe local shops can use this thing, and then they'll stay for that. But probably we can, like, there could be wild ideas to get people in through some other natural behavior of or natural tendencies of human beings.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. This what you mentioned is actually nice, because I am reminded of an incident recently. I don't know whether you
Okay.
remember or use. You must have used Telegram, right? The Telegram app.
Yes.
Right.
Occasionally.
So, yeah, occasionally. So Telegram, I don't know whether they still have it or not, but at the point when I was reading this article, Telegram
Hmm.
had a feature where they could allow you to find nearby people. And by nearby, I
Okay.
mean people within a circle of a mile or 500
Oh, okay.
meters or 800 meters, that kind of
Okay. Uh-huh.
scope. And what would they do is, they know where you live, obviously. And so what they would try to do is, they would try to give you the contact information
Mm-hmm.
of those guys who are in
Mm-hmm.
that circle, 1 mile or 2 miles or whatever
Sure.
that is.
Sure.
And then you can communicate with them, have a friendly chat, set up meetings and things like that.
Oh, nice.
But the
Okay.
but the article that I'm talking about actually was trying to dissect this whole mechanism by saying that it is a flaw in the security of the app.
Okay.
The guy performed an experiment where he could triangulate the actual location of that guy in your circle, which is not what I
Okay.
want. I mean, I want to chat with an unknown person. I might be able to, I might want to do that, but I do not
Mm-hmm.
want anybody to roam around my home,
Got
right?
it.
So
Got it.
the
Yes.
technology, maybe the idea was inventive or
Mm-hmm.
interesting, but the technology that they were trying to implement there had its own flaws. Okay,
Got it.
that,
Yes.
that that's one. The other being, now this whole thing is working behind Telegram's own servers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am not saying they are the evil guys here, or I'm not saying they'll do anything wrong or bad about it, but it
Mm-hmm.
gives me an immense peace of mind if I know that my data is not in somebody's hands, irrespective of what they can do or they will do. I mean, still, it would be the best option is always to have control over own your things, right?
Got it.
So, what you're saying, the dating system, a
Mm-hmm.
similar kind of thing could be a nice application on this mini internet where I
Mm-hmm.
know the data is not being hoarded by a corporate. I am having my
Yep.
own device. Maybe I have a local services running. There
Mm-hmm.
could be,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it's possible or not, but I could think of a system where, I can have better control.
Absolutely. Also, it reminded me of something. I don't know the name. I do not recall the name of this company, but this company was doing, I think, something very similar across United States of America, and they were doing something very different. So, let me just recall the details. So,
Sure.
this
Just
company,
look it up.
I really do not know the name.
Okay.
and not even the keywords what to look for. But
Okay.
I think I shared the link with you that day, but it
Okay.
was months ago. It was months ago. So this company built something that would allow somebody to install some gear on their rooftops, and
Mm-hmm.
this gear had a broadcasting range of I think 4 miles or 5 miles.
Yeah, I
This was
think I can recall something of the sort. I think
and
you shared it with me. Yes.
what they did was they divided the entire country in sections of 4 mile circles or squares. It was something like this, and then they
Okay.
were auctioning those off. So you could place an
Right.
auction, say, I want to install in this particular box, or I live here, my house is in the center. You make your case, I'm ready to buy it for $5,000, I'll put it in, and uh, once your bid is confirmed, you win that particular square. You get the gear, devices, and everything, and you put it on your rooftop, and that's it. So now what happens
Okay.
is this device on your rooftop can talk to the neighboring squares and circles. The devices installed in the neighboring, but
Right.
not just that. So you are basically becoming uh, a little bit more decentralized version of an ISP now, because anybody can put it up, but
Right.
not everybody is required to put it up. Anybody can put it up, but not everybody is required to put it up, because the radius of broadcast is 4 or 5 miles. Now within these 4 or 5 miles, the other people can just download their app and connect to their local antenna. So anybody who is within your square, within your circle, you paid in $5,000. All of these people who want to get onto this network, which is now countrywide. It is still local, but countrywide local. It is still alternate internet, a little bit more decentralized, not entirely decentralized. People are still connecting to their local antenna owners. So you get paid some money. That's how you recover your money over a long period of time. So this is basically some sort of investment. Uh, but yeah, so there the idea is, again, it's local, but it's kind of at the scale of the entire country, and also not everybody is required to put it up. But now then people in your local circle will see, hey, Sumit is making this much money, why don't I also put it up? Also this will increase the entire network as well, because there will be more bandwidth within the network, and slowly things will become decentralized. So what do you think of an approach like this? This is not my approach. I did not come up with this. I saw a company who is doing something like this. I think they're part of Y Combinator, or maybe I'm just imagining things now here. But they were doing something like this in the United States. This was months ago.
I don't know, was it United States or Bangalore? I mean, I thought I heard a similar version of
Or
a
could be Bangalore.
technology.
Or now you say it. Maybe maybe it was Bangalore. Yes.
Yeah, so because I also read something which had to do something with Bangalore, so I thought maybe something
Yes,
similar,
maybe it
some
was
similar
Bangalore.
project.
Yes, maybe it was
Okay,
Bangalore. Oh wow,
possibly.
they were Indian. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting technology. Again, as you're saying, good idea. I don't know how they are doing the decentralized bit because. So, let me give you an example, a very simple
Okay.
example. Uh, a while ago, I had to do a lot of bookkeeping for stuff, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted an app or a service kind of a thing which I wanted to use on a daily
Okay.
basis.
Okay.
The first thought was, as always, pick up the easiest tool and just deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
without worrying about what it offers, what it does not offer. So I just started with a simple WordPress framework,
Mm-hmm.
installed a couple of plugins, just a bare minimum things. It already offers good ways to write things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it started. Okay,
Okay.
so that's okay. I mean, I can purchase a hosting service, not at all expensive these days. Things like that I can do day in, day
Mm-hmm.
out, and I would
Mm-hmm.
not worry about anything.
Sure.
Okay, I did this maybe 20 days, 15 days, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, I mean, not really a realization, just again, one of these thoughts. I started thinking, I'm hosting this service on a server, and
Mm-hmm.
that server is sitting somewhere, and you every day you hear things like XYZ was censored, ABC was struck down, things like that. No, absolutely no connection to what I was thinking. So, while things goes in your mind, I thought, why can't I host this service on my own computer?
Okay.
Okay, so here's an example. I'm just trying to convey the idea I'm trying to convey. So I installed the same service on my computer. I could reach it locally from my home network, no problem at all, right? Trivial thing to do. Now, when I'm traveling, going out, I may have, I may want to have an access to that system. Now, I can, but not in a very convenient way, because I'm using my residential internet. It doesn't come with a fixed IP. Okay, the IP is dynamically allocated, so it keeps on changing. Today I have an IP address that is working. Tomorrow morning it may not. Okay, or 2 days after it may not. So then I started looking for solutions. I came up with things like dynamic DNS providers. There are services out there. They can freely provide a dynamic DNS service, and you can point your home network. You can point the IP address of your home machine with their services in the cloud, and they will just give you a domain name, something dot something dot something, and which will always point to your home network, and it will dynamically update. It will dynamically keep on updating whenever your home network shifts to something else. Now, this is a cool solution for me to have my service, my data in my reach, and still being able to access from outside. Okay. But now the problem, again, I start thinking, somebody still knows my IP address. You can call me a stupid guy, who thinks too much about these trivial things. But that's the thought that came into my head, that somebody still knows my IP address. Okay. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can get away with it by asking for a fixed IP address from my ISP. Multiple problems can be solved in just one straight shot. But then my ISP knows my address. Right. So what I'm trying to get here is the following. What you are saying of this piece of technology the guys in Bangalore or in US are doing, I mean, the IPs are still assigned by an entity. You got to trust the entity, right? You have to trust that entity. Now, it may not be a big market player, a small local guy, possibly your friend or something, who owns the ISP system, and he will provide you with the IP addresses and other things. So yes, it helps a lot, but maybe still I'm desiring for more.
I mean, there are no IP addresses. I mean, again, the details are blurry, but I think they have an open source architecture technology. If you want to purchase, if you want to set up your own thing, you can get everything in and also set up your own thing. So nobody is assigning anything. They are just seeding the network by auctioning off the few first squares to make sure that at least the entire city is covered.
No, that's fine. That is fine. But suppose you and I want to purchase the internet connection from this local person, right? Local company or local whatever.
We are not purchasing anything. We're just purchasing the hardware. This hardware connects to another local hardware. So it finds and connects to another local hardware if there is any.
Right. But who assigns the unique address to your hardware? That's what I'm trying to ask here. How will I identify you on the network?
Maybe it just assigns itself whenever you power it on for the first time.
If that is the case, then whatever I said is basically, I mean, just forget about what I said. If that's what's happening, imagine a Tor onion service, right? The machine generates a unique, very complicated long ID, and everybody who wants to be on the Tor network can create his or her own onion address, and the network is basically self-assigning. Okay, if that's the kind of system they're offering, or at least trying to do, then most of what I have been saying.
Even in your case of small internet, who was assigning?
This is what I will be. Yes, even in my case, what I'm thinking, something similar is what I would expect to happen. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I'm not even talking about the technology difficulties. I'm just talking about the approach to make this possible. Like, you have to So things do not happen just because there's technology. Things do not happen because this is a possibility. You have to actually put some incentives in place, some stories in place to make sure
Right.
people are aligned towards the cause, and then things do happen. So their approach is, instead of going to society level local, they are going probably at city level, where they're auctioning off. So these people are just like people who will seed the network and they'll just vanish. They'll go off. Now anybody can put in some money, get their own hardware, add more bandwidth to the system. Uh, but yeah, so that was a different approach, entirely different approach. Maybe different use cases will come up. Now there's city wide network, so probably some more use case will come up with that. But I'm still thinking of something that we mildly touched upon very early in our conversation, which was VPNs. They solve the
Yeah,
problem.
VPN do solve a lot of problems. But for example, okay, so this is a story I cannot verify whether it's correct or not. I just read it somewhere. At the risk of sounding completely wrong here, the story goes like the following. So, if do you remember, there was some major developments in Jammu and Kashmir last year, maybe last year, couple of years back,
Not really sure.
when
Not
they
really sure.
when they revoked Article 370 and things like that.
I'm
Okay,
too
okay,
much far away from political things.
okay. So that's
Absolutely not
okay.
sure.
Fine, fine. So forget about the context. Just focus on what happened there. So, because of the possibility of an unrest happening there, the government decided to shut down internet services to a great extent. I mean,
Okay.
some things were working, but overall, it was kind of a dead thing. You know, I should not say dead. I should say much less useful. Whatever was remaining there. For example, 4G services were completely stopped.
Got it.
Okay, so high bandwidth transfers, data transfers were not working at all.
Got it.
Certain websites were not working.
Got it.
So certain websites, I don't know what websites, I can't even remember those websites, but supposedly those websites were useful to some people.
Okay.
So what they decided was actually what you're suggesting, to use a VPN. Okay, so that's the VPN is the go-to tool for such things when you cannot access certain things from your area.
But I think they could not access anything because there was no internet at all.
No. I mean, there was internet. No. What I'm
Okay.
saying is they had some sort of internet going around, not as powerful as it should be. But once the authorities realized that people are using VPN technologies to access certain websites or certain services, they started blocking those VPNs as well. Now, I don't know how one could do that, or is it even possible? But if I have to give an answer to this hypothetical question, I would say, okay, some standard VPNs do publicize their IP addresses. No, I mean they do.
I don't think they. I mean, the definition of P in VPN is private.
I don't know. I mean, okay, it's possible that what they were calling VPN could quite possibly be something else. But
Could
what
be.
I heard or read, again, a big question mark here, because I'm not entirely sure what happened. But this is something I read. I mean, I could be wrong. Okay. So what I read was that they blocked access to certain things, which further degraded the whole internet mechanism there. So
Okay.
VPN is there. Yes, I don't know. So again, I have heard stories where a certain VPN provider got hacked or was forced by authorities or something, to reveal information. There are VPN providers who promise that we do not log your data, we do not log your IP addresses, things like that. I'm sure there are services like that who would promise you a good deal. I don't know. So you could possibly be right. VPN could be one solution, but I don't know. I haven't seen people around me, at least, so much more into VPN.
But I agree. But yeah, I agree. I mean, even if people start using VPN, then you're basically just shifting the threat from your ISPs to these VPN companies now. So
Right.
the
So
threat is
you're
still there.
moving. you're moving your threat out of India to Singapore or to US
Yeah.
or to
But
anybody.
yes,
Yeah.
there's still threat. Okay, what do you think of something like Tor, which works on current internet only, but it's open source, and it makes sure that nobody is doing any fishy stuff.
Tor is again a good technology. I mean, have been a great technology, in fact. But again, what I feel about Tor, I mean, I'm actually more comfort. I would be more comfortable using Tor than using VPN. But again, VPN offers VPN offers completely different. Tor offers me complete. I think one offers the
Yeah.
anonymity, the other offers you privacy. I
Also, Tor is,
cannot.
I think, it's an entirely different world. I mean, I don't think you can watch YouTube on Tor. There's an entirely different
You
world that you explore in, or you can.
I don't know about YouTube, but I know about Facebook. So Facebook has an
Okay.
onion service. So even
Okay.
if tomorrow Facebook goes down, they have an onion service running on Tor. You can,
Oh
if
wow.
you're on
Okay.
Tor, you can access Facebook. I mean, you can
Basic.
read it
Okay.
out
So
if you want to.
basically, all of these companies will have to have their own in services to be accessed on the Tor network. So Tor network is basically not hooked into the current internet. It is its own private global
Yes,
network, which
it
is more
runs
secure, more
it.
private.
Yeah, it runs through the standard internet, but it's hidden from the standard internet in the way. So
Yep.
so suppose tomorrow an organization wants to take down Facebook. So they can shut down their servers which are connected to the global internet. But suppose they want to still run a server hooked to the internet, but not publishing a website. Right? I mean, you just get rid of facebook.com, and for all intents and purposes, Facebook is gone.
Yep.
Right. So the access to facebook.com is what connects you to the Facebook. So if you take down the URL, it's gone. But what Facebook has done is they have their own onion service running,
Okay.
which you cannot take down
Got it.
because that's something running on your own piece of hardware and you own the hardware and there is no way to catch it. Now, if you are on the
So
Tor
isn't Tor
network,
the best solution?
so I'm coming to that. So Tor seems like a great idea, except the technology works in the way that there has to be, the last node where data is coming out has to be known to you, right? Otherwise, I mean, you are still within the system. Whenever you want to get out of Tor to connect to something, just like VPN. So you connect to a server in Singapore, and then the server sitting in Singapore connects to google.com or Netflix or whatever. So that outgoing connection from the Singapore's server is, let's call it the exit node. I'm being very vague here. Let's just call it the exit node. The problem with Tor is that the exit nodes are still known publicly. Suppose I know you are a journalist and you are writing something very sensitive in favor or against a certain section or a certain institution. I know that this guy is on Tor. As an official, I know this guy is on Tor. And I also know that his data will be coming out from A, B, and C exit nodes. I could be monitoring those exit nodes. What's even worse, I could set up my own exit node knowing that data will definitely flow through my system because that's how Tor is designed. In fact, that's been done.
Got it. But yes, so you can see what is what is being requested by somebody, some user in the entire network. But I think the power of Tor, the onion, many layers, is that you cannot backtrack the thing to the original requester. You will see this
Absolutely.
exit node. Yes. So
Yeah, you will get hold of the guy who is holding the exit node, not the guy who is requesting. Sure. So
yes,
the
yes,
user who is initiating the request is completely
could be
safe. I
anybody.
mean,
Yes.
could be anybody. It's still a lot safer. But the guy who is maintaining the exit node is in a perpetual trouble.
Not really. I mean, not really. I mean, everybody knows that this information, even if they get, if even if they hold this guy at the gunpoint, there's nothing that he can reveal because
well,
it
he
is just
cannot
not
reveal
possible.
anything. Yeah, he cannot reveal anything. But I don't know the laws around the world. But I could still say you are enabling a particular nefarious act. So you're not the guy doing it, but you are the guy who's enabling it. So, shut it down, or, I can force you out of here. Things like that can still happen. I've heard stories. I cannot validate, or, I cannot
I mean,
authenticate what I'm saying.
this is possible in any system. Then I
Yeah,
mean, even if
yeah,
in a
yeah.
local community, if people will say there's some devices on the terraces, rooftops, they'll just
Yeah. Yep,
get
yep,
in
yep.
get in your home. That is possible, but I think Tor uh, solves all of this problem. Just that you are in a different ecosystem now. Just think of it like a
Yes.
different internet. You do not
Right.
get the same services that you are habitual of using on this internet. There's different internet, but then even in our mini network, it'll be same, very same. A different services, different experience, a little bit more local.
I'll tell you how having a mini network running a service like Tor could still be better than the standard Tor. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Suppose
Okay.
today you try and navigate to a website using Tor. Just
Mm-hmm.
try to access google.com through Tor.
Mm-hmm.
It's painfully slow,
Mm-hmm.
not because of the technology, because
Okay.
the number of participants in the network is small. Why small?
Okay.
Because not many people, maybe they are not interested, or not, maybe they are not enthused enough by
Mm-hmm.
such piece of technology. Or, the most likely reason is convenience. I mean, it's just so simple to just
Mm-hmm.
hit google.com on your phone and just do your business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What this private network can help in this area is because now I know, everybody knows in the network, if you want to be in the network, one has to be a participant. Okay, so imagine running a Tor like service in a mini internet where everybody is participating equally. So now I don't have the problem of low bandwidth, or,
You have answered your own question, although. So that now the technology is available, it is freely available, open source,
right,
and even then there
right.
are fewer nodes globally.
Yes,
Just imagine how many nodes you can get in your own local community, because again you answered your own question, which is convenience.
right. Convenience, surely. I mean, no, that's the whole idea. I mean, why are you willing to give up your privacy on social media platforms? You know it, I know it. It's just the convenience factor that kicks in, and you just start giving up things that should not be. I'm not saying it's a bad idea or a good idea. A convenience is always a great driving force. But again, I'm
Yep.
saying, eventually people start realizing this may not be in their best interests, or they would want more control,
Even yes,
more
even
freedom.
then, Tor become more useful, because if people realize that and they use Tor, because Tor is just a software you install rather than buying
Right,
something, installing a rooftop, and it's not just about installation; it's also about maintenance. Wouldn't just people
right.
prefer Tor, something like Tor?
Uh,
Unless there's a use case which is very useful locally. I mean, the only difference between something like Tor and this mini internet is that mini internet is local.
yeah, unless you have a specific local application, useful
Yes.
application going around, you're claiming that
Yes.
Tor right now probably solves most of what I've been trying to say.
Yes, and this application could be interesting. So I can shoot couple of examples. One was the local dating, again
Right.
geographical. Another is maybe local version of something like Uber. All the local shops around you, can you have their local e-commerce stores? Like you can have things locally bought and delivered.
Right.
Another local thing could be let me be little controversial. Buy and sell cryptocurrency locally, like using cash. So there's a little more privacy like around the transactions as well.
Right.
uh, so I think, just to summarize all of it, I think there is definitely some value in having a private local mini internet.
Okay.
There's definitely something there. And when it comes to globally, there are things available. So there are Tor available, there's Tor available, there VPN available, which fits in nicely with different scenarios. But with local, I think if anybody, even if you and I have to do something around it, or if anybody wants to do something around it, all they have to do is think of either one or a bunch of killer local use case applications
Yep.
that something which is more useful locally than globally, that will drive the adoption of this locally, and probably yes, from there it'll start to grow like a cancer, and then one day could overtake the entire global, have an alternate layer of internet going on, which is not controlled by any ISPs, which is
Right.
only controlled by people like individuals like you and me. Very difficult to take down, very difficult to shut down, very difficult to censor, almost impossible to
Yeah.
censor. Uh,
Just
but
like
yeah,
your
I think
Bitcoin.
the
Yeah,
yes,
just
yes,
just
yes,
just
yes.
like your
It
just
start
like your
yes,
Bitcoin network, you cannot take
yes,
it down so easily.
yes. Started out with just one node with a bunch of people. Then 10 people came in. Now anybody can run a Bitcoin node, and then it's so powerful. I mean, and just like that, there has to be some just small set of enthusiasts just looking to do something differently. They just have to be given the tools in their hands and a very interesting purpose, which is the ultimate killer local use case application. So if anybody can think of this killer local use case application, I think there could be something here to begin this mini internet.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you would agree that sometimes you could find useful things by reducing the scope of your network rather than
Yes,
widening it.
yes,
Things can
yes,
happen
yes, yes,
very
yes,
nicely
yes,
in
yes.
a reduced scope.
Absolutely. And I think there are so many interesting things. Uh, so just imagine. So whenever you go to a new city, you try to explore the monuments over there, parks over there, lakes, these things over there. What if this local internet is one more thing that you will explore? So whenever you go
Quite
somewhere,
possibly.
you just explore, hey, what's there on the online version of this local place? Another like interesting
Right.
touristy thing. You might
Right.
find some interesting vendors around. So it just so there's some beauty definitely in being something small, local,
Right.
mini. It's just that to get it up and running, there has to be some sort of killer use cases that will drive people to adopt something like this. So if anybody can
Yeah.
think of it, I think it's something that it can be tried upon. I don't know the business model would be here, but I think that this would be a great, interesting open source project.
True. I mean, all the benefits of the internet without without an upper control. Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody is listening and if you have any interesting use case of local mini internet, private internet, drop them in the comments or send them to us. Find us on on Twitter. It's Sumit Mamoria, Mohit Mamoria, our usernames. Uh, all right, so that's it for this episode. Thank you, Sumit. Bye bye, everybody.